Welcome to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. Like any good marriage, we will debate, evaluate, and sometimes quarrel about how privacy and security impact business in the 21st century.
Hi, Jody Daniels here. I'm the founder and CEO of Red Clover Advisors, a certified women's privacy consultancy. I'm a privacy consultant and certified informational privacy professional, providing practical privacy advice to overwhelmed companies.
Hi, I'm Justin Daniels. I am the shareholder and corporate M&A and tech transaction lawyer at the law firm Baker Donaldson, advising companies in the deployment and scaling of technology. Since data is critical to every transaction, I help clients make informed business decisions while managing data privacy and cybersecurity risk, and when needed, I lead the legal cyber data breach response brigade.
And this episode is brought to you by No One Can Hear When You Press the Pom-Pom on My Hat. Would you like to try again? Pom. Okay. This episode is brought to you by Red Clover Advisors. We help companies to comply with data privacy laws and establish customer trust so that they can grow and nurture integrity. We work with companies in a variety of fields, including technology, e-commerce, professional services, and digital media. In short, we use data privacy to transform the way companies do business. Together, we're creating a future where there's greater trust between companies and consumers. To learn more and to check out our best-selling book, Data Reimagined, Building Trust One Bite at a Time, visit redcloveradvisors.com. So how come you encouraged me to wear my big winter hat because I was a popsicle for my first call, but you don't have a hat on?
I have many hats.
I know, but you're not wearing one. Maybe you should wear your hood.
You want me to wear a hood?
I don't know. Let's see. What do we think?
Okay, I'll wear the hood if you want.
No, okay, no hood. That's a little scary. So for any of you listening, I should go to the YouTube channel and you should see my very pretty pom-pom hat.
Okay.
All right. But today is so exciting. I am delighted to bring on one of my very long time privacy friends, Ron DeJesus, who is the Field Chief Privacy Officer at Transcend, driving practical privacy governance and industry advocacy. He previously led privacy at Grindr, Tinder, and Match Group, built global programs at Tapestry and American Express, founded DeJesus Consulting, and remains an active community leader through the IAPP and LGBTQ Privacy and Tech Network. And we are delighted, Ron, that you are here with us today.
Well, thank you for having me, guys. I'm super excited to chat.
All right, Justin, you get to kick us off.
So, Ron, why don't you tell us a little bit about your career path?
Sure. Again, it's been a very long journey. In my 20-year career in privacy, I actually started at a boutique consulting firm based in Toronto and started to get my feet wet when it came to dealing with privacy regulations in Canada specifically. I then jumped to the Big Four. So I went to Deloitte and started helping global clients. GDPR wasn't in effect yet. But really got a sense for kind of, the global implications of the different EU states. And, at the time, there was still, lots of work around GLBA and, COPPA, all those good ones. HIPAA, I did a lot of HIPAA work back in the day too. And then I built my first internal program at American Express. They were one of our clients, and then eventually did programs at Tapestry, which owns Coach, Kate Spade, and got my feet wet in retail. Jumped over to tech at Tinder, which was really great. It was at the cusp of the cusp of GDPR. Really doing some great work with engineers. It was my first time working with engineers, actually. And so it was a really great time to actually learn how teams actually operationalize things like data deletion, how do data deletion workers work, for example. I really got a sense of how to work with product teams that were implementing core features at this really incredible, I guess I'd say conglomerate of dating apps. So I was at the helm of Tinder for a while, and then I went to Grindr. So lots of dating app experience, became their second chief privacy officer. And now I'm at Transcend, as Jody had mentioned, their first field chief privacy officer, where I spend a lot of my time really just engaging with the privacy community. I really do believe that this job is 90%, engaging with my peers and tapping into my network and really learning about how people like, Jody, yourself, and your clients really try to operationalize this, this onslaught of global laws and regulations, even AI now. So I not only engage and sit on panels and kind of create content, but I also bring that back to Transcend, so that they better understand what is happening in the weeds in real life to make improvements to our platform, which again, we offer privacy and AI governance tooling for Fortune 500 companies. So right now, as I'd mentioned before we got started, I'm in Paris. Before that, I was in Dublin, attending OpenAI's first ever privacy hackathon. So I'm all over the place. I'm traveling all over the place, and I simply love it. It's just, I think, one of the best jobs in privacy to just be, responsible for just engagement. So yeah, no complaints here.
Yes, you are the where's Ron, like the where's Waldo of privacy. And anyone listening, if you are curious and want to go on a globe trotting tour, I encourage you to follow Ron because it is super, super fun. Now, let's kind of take a little bit of a step back. Help us understand what led to you creating this field chief privacy officer role. It feels like it's the first in the industry, and how that might be a little bit different than kind of your classic chief privacy officer role that we often see in companies.
Yeah, great question, Jody. And so you are you both are you familiar with the traditional kind of field CISO kind of role
We
where
are.
I think, yeah, so obvious, sorry, I'm sure you are, but I think so Transcend's idea was to take this concept of a field CISO and obviously expand it to someone that had the prior chief privacy officer experience, but with a little bit of a twist. So I think traditionally field CISOs are pretty involved in the sales process, and really that's probably built into their comp and what they provide to the company. As field CPO, I do help our sales team, and I'm, part of really critical prospecting, that sort of thing. But Transcend really wanted this role to focus on community building and content creation, thought leadership. So prior to Transcend, between Grindr and Transcend, I was actually running my own consulting firm, similar to Red Clover Advisors, just a boutique firm that was helping with privacy program operationalization. And I started actually, Jody, to get into content creation. So I developed a LinkedIn, I would say, an Instagram kind of exclusive content series where I would walk people through what their privacy rights were, and my focus was on lay people. And I started to really see that there was I would say, a gap in our industry around content creators, if you will, and so I kind of dove into that space. And when the field CPO role came, it kind of ticked all my boxes. Again, it was focused on thought leadership, but at the same time, someone that was comfortable talking to people, attending conferences, going on panels, developing live content, which I do at the IAPP, for example. And I applied, and I actually knew Ben Brook, who's the CEO, just through networking. And I reached out and I was just like, hey, this sounds super interesting. And he was super excited. And the rest is history. I've been there now for about a year and 10 months. Feels like more than that, but in a really good way. And yeah, I've seen a couple of other field CPO roles popped up. And I think the last thing I'll say before I pause is I actually am surprised that other big platforms in the privacy tech space haven't really, taken advantage of a role like this that is, having someone that is a figurehead for how privacy actually works in the real world and that connection. So when I talk to our prospects, for example, um, I'm there showing them, hey, I've implemented legacy tooling. I've been in your shoes, and here's how we do it better. But also, I'm there as more of a, I'd say, technology neutral person, and providing that perspective on how they can, what's best and fit for purpose for their program. So, yeah.
Well, it's very exciting. And I know that the content that you produce is widely sought after and approachable, which is something that's really needed in this industry. The call I had right before this was someone struggling mightily to understand CCPA regulations and what does that mean? And they're scouring the internet trying to find information. It is hard. This job is hard.
Yeah, super hard. And how I approach the content is I really am more, I'm a curious person. I'm not an AI governance expert. I don't think anyone really is yet. So for example, if I'm talking to someone around how they think about AI governance, I'm really just curious and I want to know more about, how you CPO who's been given the AI governance hat, how are you navigating those challenges when we're still struggling with whether or not, due to the digital omnibus, those high risk requirements are going to apply soon. So it's really for me when I create content and when I'm talking to someone, I'm asking questions. I'm just really more of a student, and so that's what I'm hopeful my content brings is just pragmatic guidance to folks that are still struggling together in this space. So.
So speaking of struggling, where do you think most privacy programs struggle?
Yeah, believe it or not, I think, and I hear this at every IAPP. Folks are still doing a lot of stuff manually, whether it's, understanding where their requirements are from a kind of global footprint perspective. We're still in the Excel spreadsheets, filling in whenever the 20th law comes into play. We're putting in what does a notice require? What is a breach notification going to implicate? So I think a lot of programs are still relying on these manual tools, and I think again as we try to cope with what product teams are doing when it comes to engaging vendors in the AI space, for example, in order to scale, I think we all need to realize that we need, and this is not an ad for Transcend, but we need to really, take advantage of automation and automation in our programs, whether again that's having, a really robust data discovery tool or having DSARs not be, triaged manually. I think a lot of programs, believe it or not, even in the F1000 world, I've heard a lot of folks still kind of maybe not so ready yet to engage a vendor, and that's still surprising to me because I've engaged vendors since 2015 when one of the first platforms came into to fruition. So yeah, I think that's where most folks struggle is that they're still trying to do things manually that really just should be automated.
We see that. We do a lot of manual and we work with a lot of companies where that's where they are due to budget, size,
Mhm.
resources, tech, ability to integrate. There's sort of a long list of obstacles.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, as you've started to see companies move from that to automation, is there an area where maybe they start first or how they might be able to remove some of the blockers to get there? I mean, we all would love to, uh, snap our fingers and poof, it's all automated. But the reality is, we know it's going to be a process and a starting point. Curious if you can share where you're seeing success for companies who are starting that journey.
Yeah, and like you said, Jody, everyone needs to do what's right for their program, their budget, their culture. I never push anyone to any specific platform. I'm always like, you got to do what's fit for purpose for your organization. I think as folks who are starting to dabble in, and kind of solicit information from vendors, I think number one, they should really be engaging internally and not doing this on their own. I think what we've seen is successful platform implementations really do have that consensus from within and have the CISO on board or if it's a more data driven culture, the CIO. So I we've been understanding that it's important to address the needs of not just legal compliance privacy, but how tools, I think a successful tool is going to be able to be used across the business. And so I think number one, it's really getting a sense of your internal strategy around not only compliance, but above and beyond compliance, how can we use a platform that's going to, help us innovate and to enable the business? So really, I see the most successful implementations have that really, good sense of consensus from within.
And I would just add that for anyone thinking about moving technology vendors or bringing on a technology vendor for a slice of a program, is to give yourself enough time to do that. This is not a super short exercise, and also to be thoughtful to the requirements. I see a lot of companies not know what it is that they need to think about, what is
Mhm.
important for them. And they all differ a little bit, whether you're talking data discovery or privacy rights or cookies. I mean, some of those requirements might be similar, but then you need to expand those. What are the types of systems? Who's going to be using it? Where is your data? Is it structured? Is it unstructured? All those kinds of questions. But thinking about the requirements first and just being prepared and looking at it like other software. And for some reason, I think privacy doesn't get treated. It's like the second stepchild or something.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've said. I think you hit the nail on the head on all those points, especially the sense of, I think a lot of people that are looking at vendors think that something's going to work off the shelf or that something is going to be a silver bullet for all of their compliance needs. And it's not the case. I think, you know, obviously a lot of vendors will have a really good out of the box solution, but as we've seen from the CPPA enforcement activity, we shouldn't be relying on vendors, to really be our guide when it comes to how we address something like a GPC or our state level do not sell requirements, right? So I think that expectation of a vendor being the end all be all of our, kind of the legal perspective as well, I think is a big mistake. Um, Good vendors are going to have, suggestions and have really, again, as I said, solutions that are out of the box, primed to be used globally. But I think there really needs to be I think it's a misconception out there, Jody, that these tools are just going to solve all their problems. So,
Oh my goodness, I see this all the time. I am so glad that you brought that up.
yeah.
Everyone listening, we are repeating, tools are wonderful, tools are helpful. You have to review what is there and make sure it is actually accurate for what your company is doing.
100%.
So, using your crystal ball, what do you think will be in store for the privacy folks in 2026?
That's a good question. I've already been asked that, and I was thinking about this before the podcast, and I was trying to think of something a little bit more, worthwhile. But I think, again, we've had, I'd say, a good year as privacy professionals to really understand what AI governance means to us. And so I think in 2026, I feel like a lot of privacy professionals are going to have a much better sense and maybe more confidence building their programs to address the needs of AI initiatives. I think we're still waiting with bated breath in terms of what's happening here in the US. I'm saying here, but forgot that I'm in Paris. So wait, US nationally or federally, what's going to be happening, on the kind of the AI front. But we're seeing states take things into their own hands with California, Colorado. So I don't think privacy professionals are going to play a wait and see game anymore. I think they're going to start really just establishing their AI governance programs based on what they've learned the past, 12 months from their peers, from what we know about, other F500s that are doing this really well. So yeah, I think that's my prediction. More maturity in AI governance.
In that vein, we get a lot of questions and trying to understand what other companies are doing. If you could think about the various companies you've talked to, is there a common theme of where they are, or in our crystal ball scenario, which step you think more companies are going to take in 2026?
When it comes to AI governance, Jody, or
Yeah, we can stay in AI governance because that's, yep.
yeah, I think again, as I had mentioned, I feel that folks in 2025 were still it's all a wait and see game. A lot of the peers that I've talked to haven't wanted to, you know, hit the green light on anything substantial, whether that's hiring, an FTE for an AI governance position or investing consulting work on that. So I think again, this 2025 was the year that we all just got a better sense for ourselves what other folks are doing or thinking about. So I think that folks are, unless you're an F500 or, an F50 even, I think the smaller players were still waiting to see what the resource need was, what the leadership appetite was for investing in an AI governance, full-fledged AI governance program for hiring. So I think in 2026, we'll probably see the kind of the trigger pulled on all of these things. So
Thank you for sharing.
yeah.
So, Ron, do you have a best privacy tip you would like to share with our audience?
I do. And I'm smiling because it's probably something that, you know, um, a privacy professional is going to do and not a layperson. But I think when it comes to just interacting with social media, I like to clean my digital footprint from time to time. I'm sure you both do, being in this space. Whether or not it's just, you know, clearing histories or, using really privacy protective browsers. I will kind of a little bit of a twist on that. I think I instead of, privacy tips, I'd actually encourage privacy pros to walk their friends or their, colleagues that aren't in privacy through some of these things that are happening when it comes to the changes that are being made silently, right? We know that a lot of these platforms are defaulting on to a lot of like AI training, data used for AI training, or other things that could be seen as dark patternish. So I encourage folks to reach out to their friends, and I talk to my mom all the time, who's always curious about my career, and I walk her through. I always use the mom test. This is the mom test that I use: is can my mom delete her data, or can she find that setting in Instagram? And if she can't, then I feel like it's not the best laid out control. So again, I always try. Sometimes I feel like we're in a little bit of a silo when we talk about these things, and I'm always, again, as a content creator, I'm always trying to reach the masses that don't really understand what's going on with their data. So I encourage folks to do that. So I guess that'd be my advice.
I think it's a really great tip. And I think even for people in their own company is to actually go through from the eyes of a customer. What is a customer experience?
Right.
And the same would be true for educating and passing on all of our knowledge to other people.
100%, Jody. You won't know. I mean, you'd be surprised at how many CPOs have not gone through their own do not sell process, or their own like haven't downloaded their own, data from their own, company's DSAR process. It's quite surprising. So yes, 100%. I agree. Like, walk the walk and talk the talk. And yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice.
Now, when you are not walking and talking privacy, what do you like to do for fun?
I recently I've been traveling through Europe doing a lot of Christmas markets. So my husband and I, we actually really love going to different Christmas markets in Europe during this time because it's actually our anniversary last week of November. So I just love a good glow wine. I love a good hot red drink of alcohol when it's cold out. So yeah, I really enjoy just kind of Europe town hopping experiencing all the Christmas markets. Yeah.
I keep hearing about all these Christmas markets. One day I'll have to try and
Is there,
experience it myself.
I assume there's not one in Atlanta, right?
I don't think we have any of these Christmas markets, but I keep hearing other people going and traveling to Christmas markets, and I wasn't really familiar with that until it feels like that's the thing to do this year.
Yeah, I think the closest one to you guys is probably the one in Bryant Park in New York, but
which is fun. Yeah. I've been to that one, and that was really fun.
It is. I agree. I like it, but there's nothing like just having red wine that's steaming hot while you're looking at a European backdrop. So I highly encourage it.
I'm going to need to put that on my bucket list. Well, Ron, we are so excited that you came to talk with us today. If people would like to connect and learn more, where should they go?
Yeah, they can follow me on LinkedIn under Ron DeJesus, all one word, or I'm on Instagram at Ron DeJesus. I'm also on TikTok at Chief Privacy Officer.
Amazing. Well, Ron, thank you so very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you both. Happy holidays.
You too.
Thanks for listening to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes and check us out on LinkedIn. See you next time.